They say this world holds secrets far older than civilization. Some truths are so dark, they must never come to light. In distant mountains, where clouds never settle, there sleeps a force that awakens only once in a century. A force no human should ever encounter. Far away from these legends lived Ryan and Aisha, two travel writers, exhausted by the chaos of city life and desperate for peace. One night, standing on their balcony, they made a decision that would change their lives forever. They would leave the city behind. Their search led them deep into the mountains of Attarakand, to a quiet village untouched by time, where people spoke softly and shadows moved strangely. There, on the edge of a cliff, stood an old colonial lodge facing the dreaded Nishila Peak, a forgotten house, waiting for someone to return. Inside, the lodge was dusty, silent, yet strangely beautiful. It felt like a perfect escape from the world. But something unseen had already awakened. On one wall hung a cracked old photograph of the missing owner. No one knew how he disappeared, or what he saw before he vanished. As Ryan and Aisha gazed at the sunset from the balcony, the mountains looked calm and welcoming. They felt safe, but the darkness below watched them quietly. They had no idea that beneath this peaceful silence, an ancient nightmare was waiting, and it would reveal itself very soon. One evening, as Ryan unpacked his things, he heard a dull thud from the attic, a sound that didn't belong in that silent house. Curiosity pulled him upward, and when he opened the attic door, a stream of warm, dusty air rushed past him, as if something inside had been waiting. Under an old cloth, Ryan found a strange wooden idol and a torn journal buried beneath it. Both looked ancient and dangerous. The idol had 4 hollow eyes carved deep into its face, eyes that seemed to watch him, even in darkness. On the torn pages, a warning was written in trembling handwriting: "Do not touch the idol. It watches." Aisha came up to see what he found, but Ryan's attention was fixed entirely on the idol, almost as if he was drawn to it. Ignoring the warning, Ryan reached out and touched the idol's surface. The moment his fingers brushed the wood, a freezing wind burst through the attic, as if the mountain itself had exhaled. Ryan couldn't explain why, but he carried the idol downstairs, like it belonged with him. He placed it on his study table right in front of where he worked. The room grew colder, and the shadows deeper. Aisha watched him anxiously. There was something wrong with Ryan, something the idol had awakened. That night, as the lodge stood alone on Nishila Peak, a single window flickered with a strange light, and the darkness around it began to move. That night, Ryan barely slept because every time he closed his eyes, he heard whispers drifting through the darkness. Soon, the whispers turned into footsteps, slow, heavy, and coming from the hallway outside their bedroom. When Ryan looked out, he saw a shadow standing at the far end, tall, unmoving, and watching him. Downstairs, the idol he found in the attic had changed its position, as if it had turned to face the door by itself. Aisha, unaware of Ryan's fear, looked into the mirror and froze, because in the reflection behind her stood something with 4 glowing eyes. Ryan began writing in his journal non-stop, scribbling strange symbols and phrases she didn't remember learning. Without warning, the study room door slammed shut with a force that shook the house. The air turned icy, and darkness filled every corner. Aisha tried to calm him, but Ryan stared past her, as if something stood right behind her. Back on the table, the idol's shadow grew longer and taller, stretching up the wall like a living creature waking from sleep. And then, for the first time, Ryan saw her, Nishila Devi, the spirit bound inside the idol, rising behind him in a swirl of black mist. Meanwhile, Aisha heard crying coming from inside the walls, soft, broken sobs, like someone trapped behind the plaster. Slowly, the entire lodge began to move. Lights flickered, shadows crawled, and the house itself felt alive, breathing, watching, waiting. And in the center of it all, the wooden idol sat perfectly still, its 4 eyes glowing faintly as if it had finally awakened. Ryan spent every night digging deeper, trying to understand the strange symbols that kept appearing in his mind. But the more he searched, the more the idol seemed to watch him. Aisha begged him to stop, but Ryan had crossed a line he could not return from. Something inside the idol had already taken hold of him. Then one night, Ryan looked out the window and saw them. 3 tall shadows standing in the mist, perfectly still, perfectly silent. He rushed to the door, hoping to catch whoever, or whatever, was outside. But the porch was empty. Only the cold mountain wind remained. Moments later, the knocking began again. Louder, heavier, as if something wanted to enter, but didn't need permission. When they opened the door, an old monk stood before them. His face pale, his eyes filled with dread. The moment he saw the idol, his hands began to tremble. He whispered ancient prayers, prayers meant to protect them from things older than humanity. And there, in the silence of the lodge, he told them the legend of Nishila Devi, a spirit awakened once every 100 years during the 4 moonless nights. He spoke of a village that burned in one night, of people who vanished without a trace, and of a 4-eyed spirit rising through the smoke looking for a soul to claim. The monk warned Ryan and Aisha that the idol was not a relic, but a vessel, and Nishila Devi had already begun to awaken. Before he could finish, a thunderous crash echoed from the upper floor. The house shook, as if something massive had moved inside. And when they looked up the staircase, they saw it dot a shadow with 4 glowing eyes, watching them from above. By now, Ryan had stopped sleeping. Every night felt longer, colder, and the whispers no longer waited for darkness. Aisha could see the change in his eyes. He no longer looked like the man she once loved. He looked claimed. And as Ryan weakened, the house began to move. The walls creaked, the floors twisted, as if the entire lodge had come alive. The monk knew there was little time. He began the rituals, hoping to stop the awakening before it was too late. He warned Ryan that once a spirit chooses a vessel, breaking the bond becomes nearly impossible. Suddenly, the idol began to tremble. Dust fell from its wooden surface, as something inside it began to stir. Desperate to save Ryan, Aisha tried to take the idol away. But Ryan clutched it back with rage in his eyes, as if the idol had become a part of him. The next moment, the entire house erupted. Light shattered, wind howled, and darkness swallowed every corner. On the wall behind them, the idol's shadow grew larger and larger until it no longer looked human. The monk fell silent. He realized the spirit had chosen its host. Ryan collapsed to the floor, his body cold, his breath fading, as if something else now lived inside him. And from the darkness beyond the window, the 4-eyed spirit of Nishila Devi watched quietly, waiting for the final night to begin. By the final night, the ritual was ready. Symbols were drawn, candles were lit, and fear filled every corner of the house. The idol was placed at the center of the circle, where ancient spirits were meant to be bound. But this spirit did not want to be controlled. As the prayers began, the house started to tremble. Walls cracked, lights burst, and the mountain seemed to roar. The monk was thrown across the roombi, a force no human could see, but everyone could feel. From the heart of the ritual, she emerged. Nishila Devi, with 4 glowing eyes and a body made of darkness. Aisha ran toward Ryan, but a wall of black mist rose between them. He was still there, yet already slipping away. And then, the spirit chose its vessel. It flowed into Ryan like smoke, and his scream echoed through the mountains. In the next moment, everything went silent. No wind, no whispers, only fear remained. When Aisha looked again, Ryan was gone. No footsteps, no blood, only emptiness. By morning, the lodge looked peaceful again, as if the night had never happened. But one message remained, carved deep into the floor: Nishila will return. The idol still sat in the darkness, and behind it, a shadow with 4 eyes waited. Because some forces never die, they only sleep until the next century. By morning, the villagers gathered their courage and walked toward the silent lodge. No screams, no movement, only fog and fear. The police arrived soon after, but the house gave them no answers, only broken rooms and cold air. They found Aisha sitting alone, unable to speak, her eyes fixed on something only she could see. They searched every room, every corridor, every corner of the lodge, but Ryan was nowhere to be found. On the study table, they found Ryan's journal, filled with strange symbols and desperate warnings. One line was written darker than the rest: "The spirit does not die. It walks in human form." Outside, the villagers whispered among themselves. Some blamed the mountain, some blamed the house, and some said the spirit had found a new body. The place where the idol once stood was now empty, as if it had never been there at all. That same day, Aisha left the village forever, carrying memories she would never escape. That night, high on the mountain, a shadow watched the village below, with 4 glowing eyes. Far away, in a place unknown, the idol rested once more, waiting for curious hands to touch it again. Because some legends do not end, they only change homes, and when the century turns again, Nishila Devi will return.